What is up, board gaming friends? Welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Brian, and today we're going to do another collection update talking about the games that I sold in the month of October, actually talk about what I sold those games for, and also the games that didn't sell, and then games that came into the collection mostly through through Kickstarter deliveries. So let's go ahead and first talk about the games that I sold and also didn't sell and what I got those sold for. So first off, here are some of the games that didn't sell. And I got some stories about some of them I don't. But let's open up with Barung because this one's a little bit of an interesting piece. So I did not buy Barung. And also this story is going to be kind of like me teaching you something because I learned something from this experience. So I was selling a copy of my sealed Descent Journeys in the Dark. It's like the third edition. It's still sealed. I paid quite a bit of money for that game. I paid $147 pre-tax. And unfortunately, I knew I was going to be losing a lot of money for it. I was selling it for roughly around $80, and I had a gentleman reach out to me asking me if I was interested in a trade. I have never done a trade online before. There's a member in our board gaming group that has had massive success with trades. So I figured, you know what, why not? So he was offering me Barung as well as two of these expansions, I believe, Fables, and the Lost Levels. So not an all-in. I don't even know much about this campaign because I purposefully skipped backing Barung. I was close to backing it, but skipped it back in 2020 when this originally came out. So the lesson that I learned, though, I don't know if you guys can see, but up here in the corner is some box damage. These are pretty significant punctures within the board game, and they actually transfer over into this sheet. This sheet also has two punctures, which is pretty incredible. So whatever happened to this board game from the previous owner, I mean, there's four puncture marks. You got 1, 2, 3, and 4 significant puncture marks. So what is my lesson from that? Well, I didn't ask to see additional photos of the game. He sent me a photo that was basically, like that with the expansions, so you see something like that. And you can't really see the puncture marks. Now, if you look really closely at the photos, you can see them. But he didn't mention that there was box damage. So I went ahead and did the trade. I got the game. I actually paid additional because I knew I was receiving a heavier game in terms of shipment. So I paid the difference in shipment for that. From the cost of me shipping him my game and him shipping me his, I paid that difference because I was trying to do a stand-up thing, and that I felt. And then when I get the game and I see that there's significant damage, it bothered me because now I'm going to have a hard time selling this because obviously I'm going to disclose there's box damage there, and it just definitely makes it loses a lot of value having such an insane amount of damage on the top main box. So my lesson there was, if I'm going to do any sort of trading, I want to see more photos of the product I'm getting because I know what I'm sending. Most of my games are in pristine condition, so I know what I'm sending, but I want to make sure I know what I'm getting back in return. And I thought I could trust them, didn't work out. So that's my lesson. You guys get it. So in terms of trying to sell it, I took this to the game sale. We have a local swap meet once a quarter, and we took this to the swap meet. I asked for $100. I didn't do any research on the value of this game prior to selling it or attempting to sell it. Obviously, it didn't sell. I did have a reduced price on the final day down to $90. Didn't sell then either. So we'll see. I have to actually look it up and be like, okay, what does Barung actually go for? I thought I was doing okay in terms of the trade. Maybe that box damage was more significant in terms of what people will expect in that regard. So in terms of that, I decided I was going to let go Deep State. I think I might have mentioned this a few times. Deep State has been incredibly difficult for me to sell. I've even had this discounted all the way down to $10, and it still won't sell. It's not a bad game. I reviewed this game on the channel, but it's just not a game that my group has asked for in quite a while, so it's been on the call list, and I've attempted to call it multiple times. I just don't know how much I'm more willing to discount it from $10 over just keeping it in the collection for now. I don't know. But yeah, so $10 I was asking, still hasn't sold. We'll keep holding on to it. I don't think I'm going to drop it more than that. Acquire. This is, I don't know what version this is. I had it on my note. Acquires. This is a game I picked up in a collection that I bought when I bought a bunch of guys' games. So I've actually never played this game, and it's sat in my collection for a long time. And the only reason I've kept it in my collection instead of selling it immediately when I got it is that a lot of audience members who are basically like, that game's great, and I do believe it is. In fact, one of my loan officers that I work with loves this game. He's always like, dude, you should come play board games with us. We play Acquire every week. And I'm like, dude, that sounds incredibly dry. Just going and playing Acquire with a bunch of loan officers, that does not sound entirely enthralling to me. But, you know, who knows? Maybe the game is fun. But I decided that when I was making room on my shelf, I was looking at it and I thought, I think it's time I let this one go. Again, pretty pristine copy for the age of this game. I think this is a 2008 version, if I remember right. I'm not sure if I can find it quickly. But yeah, not a bad looking game. And this one is also a casualty, not a game I really want to sell, but a game that is a casualty of I just need space, and games have to go so I can make room for the new games that have come in, that I've backed and pledged, because I haven't bought many retail games as of late. I've gotten close a few times where I almost bought something. I can talk about that in this video as well. But Wiz War from Fantasy Flight Games, this is, I think, the 8th edition version. Pretty cool game. Hasn't played this in years. And I don't know if I will get back to the table, but I've enjoyed owning it. So it just kind of sits on the top shelf, which is kind of like the purgatory area for a lot of my games. So I was like, you know what, maybe we'll get rid of it. But it didn't sell. There was a guy, I was asking quite a bit for this, maybe in retrospect, because I saw someone else buy a copy of this at the game sale for $10. But I thought $10 for Wiz War, that seems really, really like good price. Like that's a steal of a deal in my opinion. So I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think Wiz War? What's the value of a pretty pristine copy of Wiz War going for? I'm not even sure I know the answer to that. And the final game that I tried to sell, didn't sell. It's kind of a joke. Wonderland. This is a game. Who knows who this is even from? In fact, it got damaged. That sucks. This game was pristine when I took it to the game sale, but somehow it's got a big old puncture hole in it now. Wonder how that happened. So the way the game sale works is when you take your games to the store, you kind of just drop them off and you leave them there over the weekend, and you come back and you pick up what didn't get sold. So anyways, this was a game that was gifted to me years ago by one of my friends. They probably got it for free. It's from Renegade Games. We played it a few times, me and my wife. It's marginal. It's not a great game. And so I was asking $2. I probably will just donate it to the library now. Yeah, Wonderland. So those are the games that I tried to sell but did not get sold during the month of October. So those are the games that I was currently getting rid of. Now I've got a list of games that I have sold. So obviously I don't have their boxes here anymore. But let me go ahead and pull it up. Okay, so the first game that I sold was another one of a game that I've wanted to play. I've looked at it many times, but I've had it still in seal for a long time, and that was Shol. Shol was a game that if a lot of not old school, but veteran Kickstarter backers will remember, was a game that had realistic funding goals. So when we say realistic funding goals, a lot of times crowdfunding campaigns will have unrealistic funding goals where they have it like 10,000 or 15,000, when in reality they're going to need $100,000 or more to fund their game and actually produce this thing. But they do that so that they can have stretch goals, and it incentivizes when they put funded in 2 hours or whatever thing is. This guy had $300,000 funding goal. And in the last 8 hours, they were at like 295,000. So I did an all-in pledge. It cost me about $300 plus shipping, probably on $330 at the time, maybe $340. All in, with the intentions that maybe sometimes I'll play it. It's a game where it's got a narrative, and I think a linear narrative story campaign, where you are playing in a game that's between light and dark, and you're utilizing light mechanics, but not. It's an interesting game. You can check it out if you want. Check it on BGG. But I eventually sold it. I took a massive hit. I sold it for $180, and still new, still sealed, with some bonus dice that I picked up as well. But in terms of space, needing space, the game took up a lot of room, and it was a big box that did not fit in a Calyx shelf, so that means it had to go on top of one of my shelves. Like, if a game can't fit on a Calyx shelf, that means it's going on top of the Calyx shelf. And I can only stack to the ceiling so many times on shelves where it's like, okay, I gotta get some stuff out of here. So Shol was one of them. Another one that was surprising when I sold was Bootleggers from, I believe, 2012. Old game. I had it for $10. I've tried to sell this at the game sale for maybe a year now or longer. Finally sold, so glad to get that out of here. Kingdom Builder, the original Kingdom Builder with the yellow box. I had that for $5. Very, very common game. Don't need it in my collection. I bought it from the same guy where I bought that collection from with Acquire. That was also part of it. So I lost a little money in terms of the value that I acquired all those games for in that collection, because I basically acquired them all at a cost of about $10 per game. But some of those games I sold for $150. Some of those games I sold for $5. So in the long run, all those higher end games have sold for more. So we've done well in terms of that. Then we had a game from Cosmo. It was Andor, the Winter Frost game. I sold that for $15. Andor's a game that I had in my top 50. It was a fun little adventure game in the Andor world, but my group just didn't really resonate with me in terms of wanting to get that played more than the other games that we have in the collection. And it is kind of a dated game in terms of what people are doing with modern gaming. It definitely felt like an older style game. So decided I had to get rid of it, and it's gone. Another one that I did an unboxing for, never played it, spent a lot of money on this to find out it then was on discount clearance shelves immediately after I spent a ton of money, was Warriors of Krynn. It's a Dungeons and Dragons game, I believe from Wizards of the Coast, but it's an actual board game. And I bought it because I was kind of going through a D&D phase, and it had a cool little deluxeified book that went with the Warriors of Krynn actual D&D module, and then the board game was kind of an accessory to that. And I did an unboxing video for that one to kind of see what the components like. The components were just really low quality. Thinnest kind of cardboard you ever seen. Like, things like fall apart. It just was really poor quality. And even though the Board Game Geek reviews actually gave it, like, people were like, surprisingly not a bad game, was like kind of the idea of the reviews on it. Never gave me the incentive to want to break it out, especially after seeing such a poor quality. And so I sold that for $10. And the last one that I had a hard time doing, but it was kind of like, I'm sitting here when you're looking at your shelf and you're like, okay, what am I willing to get rid of right now? This is one that I've already completed my review for, and based on the temperature of the friends in the group who are like, nope, don't really care if I play that again. And that was Dark Souls, the core game, the new core game that I just did a review on. We grinded through that to get to the review. When I say grinded, Dark Souls requires grinding. It's just part of the experience. So you're grinding, it's part of the game. It's enjoyable in some ways. Other ways it's not. And I liked it, but I definitely felt like it needed more content. And obviously Dark Souls they're making that game to want to be backwards compatible with the original Dark Souls content, but also be able to be built upon. But I didn't really feel like I wanted to invest more into this series to kind of get where I felt like it would be good for me and wanting to play it more. And it was a decent sized box in terms of its thickness, and so I needed the space on the shelf. So that was the last one that went. And the final game that I sold this month was kind of a random sale. A friend of mine, a new friend I've met, was talking about buying a Mythic Battles Ragnarok pledge from me. We were talking about that. And I mentioned I also had an Oathsworn pledged. And when he heard that I had Oathsworn, he immediately jumped on that one. And it was a first edition copy of Oathsworn, still in seal, still ready to go. But I didn't sell it a long time ago because I was waiting for the update pack that I pledged with my new pledge. Because we had I bought the whole game again with the second edition. And we bought some update packs, the one to update my first edition, plus the extra copy that I had. And so I eventually sold that to him. Sold that for $300. I told him, I think you're getting a great deal. I think Oathsworn is an incredible game. And one of my top favorite games. It's just such a really, really brilliant game. So I sold that for $300. That was the last game that I've sold this month. And I'm happy with what I've gotten out of here. There's other games I tried to sell. Resident Evil, the board game. So the last one from Steamforge Games. Remember, because they did 2, then 3, then 1. So Resident Evil 1. Is a game that I kind of was like, you know what, I think I'm comfortable getting rid of this. Again, not a game I've played. I just have so many games. You guys sometimes don't understand when I say I backed way too many games back in the day. I backed way too many games. So there's so many games. We play twice a week, sometimes 3 times. I play 3 times a week. Our group meets twice a week. And I also play Star Wars Unlimited. Like, I game way more than I think I could at 40 years old. And there's still so many games that I just cannot have the time to get to, and also do enough playthroughs on content to get a review done successfully. So it's just kind of a weird, system we're living in. And I've been looking at Resident Evil. I love the IP of Resident Evil. I like how it fits on my shelf up there, but I haven't played it. And when I backed it, it was one of the few times where I backed a game, and after paying the pledge manor price, I kind of regretted my decision. And I probably at that point should have done a refund, taken the 10% loss. But the thing that bothered me when I did that pledge is they didn't really expand upon the game in terms of stretch goals. A lot of the stretch goals and additional things were alternative skins to characters you already had, which is to me kind of a waste. I don't need different Rebecca Chambers outfits. I don't need Jill Valentine outfits. I'd rather have more characters with different powers and abilities that give me more playthrough. But again, obviously there's not as much character when you're dealing with an IP game, so maybe more zombies, more, I don't know. It just seemed kind of like more stuff on top of the stuff. And I paid a lot for it. It was like $300. I don't know. That was when I was kicking around. Marvel Zombies is still always on the chopping block. Somehow it keeps surviving. Robinson Crusoe's on the chopping block. PAX Premier second editions on the chopping block that did not resonate with my group. I didn't mind it. I would like to play it more to get a better vision for it. Cosmic Encounter, the original game. Actually, it's like the 40th edition version. A lot of games are on the chopping block because I just have too many games coming in. Again, we have, and I've not even backed, I think I've backed like 1 game this year, maybe 2 for the entire month, and we're almost in November now. So I'm doing much better in terms of backing or not backing, and plus no buying retail. But, it's always going to happen. So what did I get new? Some of these things you guys might already know about because I've talked about some of these games on my channel, but not everyone obviously watches every video. So this could be some good content. In terms of the new games I've entered the collection, Andromedas Edge. Now this is one I'm actually really excited for. Dwellings of Eldervale was one of the games I gave at a long time, it held the highest rated game in terms of a review score from Game Brigade Studios. And it was in the 9s. I don't give 9s very often. Like a 9.3 is very good. Very good in terms of my rating scale. And I gave it like a 9.1. Eventually, I lowered it down to an 8.8. But still, an 8.8 is a stellar board game. You have to understand my rating scale. Like, there's nothing could ever be a 10. And as you get higher in the points, the ranges get a lot more wider. Like, it's harder to go up, in terms of points. So Andromeda's Edge I've heard such incredible things about this game. Obviously, I didn't get to play this one during the prototype phase. So I am just ecstatic to see how this one actually compares to the original game. And I've heard a lot of times people saying it builds upon that original game. So Andromeda's Edge, super stoked about getting this one. Next, this is Isofarian Guard. This is the update pack. This is all I got for it. Kind of side commentary about update packs. I have a weird mental block when it comes to an update pack. I got Isofarian Guard. I was very excited to play that game. And they launched their update pack, which kind of changed some rules and gave you some additional stuff. And I even covered that. I did a should you back for that one because I wanted to talk about the game a little bit. And obviously I got the update pack. But now I have a mental block where I'm like, well, I don't feel like I can play the game now until I get the update pack. So Isofarian Guard's been sitting up there for like 2 years waiting for me to eventually crack into it because I've been waiting for this guy. Now I have to actually, and the other problem now, because it's such a huge box, because it doesn't fit in a Calyx, I've got Vindication and then Mythic Battles Ragnarok stacked on top of it. That's one of the reasons why Mythic Battle Ragnarok is on the cull list, because I just got to pull games down off that Calyx so I can actually acquire and reach some of these other games on there. So, Isofarian Guard, what do we got next? So this one is Unconscious Mind from Fantasia Games, and I backed this one because Endless Winter was such a hit for me personally in the group that I really wanted to dive into more of Fantasia Games offerings. Now, people in the game group here at Game Brigade Studios don't think Endless Winter's that iconic. They think it's kind of like the same game every time, even though there are a lot of things going on. Plus, it's got a lot of modular activity. You're still kind of just doing the same strategies. At least one of my friends complains that I do the same thing every time, and I don't disagree. I kind of do the same thing every time because it works for me every time. I win a lot doing that strategy. Other people try to do animal pairings, and other people try to do the area control aspect, and I'm just trying to get as many cards in my deck as possible because they're all worth victory points. So who knows what works best, but I know it works for me, and that is what I try to do. But I enjoy the game quite a bit, and I was very excited to see how Unconscious Mind would work. Plus, this is a theme. I don't think I have a game anywhere close to this in my collection for a theme. So if I'm introducing new people or someone that might be intrigued by an interesting, unique theme, I think Unconscious Mind is a home run in that regard. Okay, next we have another Awakened Realms title, and this one is Stalker, the board game. This is the other game I talked about in regards to when I did Andromedas Edge discussion. And Awakened Realms, they do such good quality production in a lot of their things that it's hard for me to not at least give a game of theirs a shot. Now, not every single game from Awakened Realms has been a home run for me, and then games that I've played the prototype and then got the actual production copy of the game have resonated to me the same level. Like an example would be, what was the name of that game? Lords of Ragnarok. When I got the prototype, I was stoked about it. In fact, I pledged it, and then 2 of our group members pledged it. One of my friends canceled their pledge after playing it, which is interesting. And then when we got it, we played it a few more times, and I kind of saw what my original friend was talking about and some of the things we didn't like about it. And that's the thing. But other Awakened Realms games like Nemesis have just been different types of like elevated experiences. So I'm always willing to give pretty much any game that Awakened Realms produces a shot and give it a try. And I know that the production quality is going to be very good. It's more of the gameplay. Does the gameplay hold up? So I didn't get to do any coverage on this one for the prototype, so I'm going in blind. I hope it's a good game. Got the all in. We'll see how this one does. And the final new game that I added to my collection would be the To2. What is this? To2 City of Gods. This is like the collector's edition, the deluxe masters set. And I backed this one late pledge, in fact, because I was doing my late pledge video that I haven't done. It was the In Case You Missed It series, which I haven't done in a while, mostly because of stuff like this, where I did a backing games. I did a video on To2 and I was like, why didn't I back this game? I was kind of going through a phase of backing old games that are getting deluxeified treatments, such as Castles of Burgundy from Awakened Realms, Robinson Crusoe from Portal Games, and then To2. I thought You know, why not, if a game has had such success, why not pick up the deluxe edition? Also, like the new Cyclades game, I did the same thing there. Obviously, I haven't played this one, still in Seal. And I don't know if I've heard mixed thoughts. I've heard some people complain about the insert for this one is not very good. I don't know. I've heard some mixed feelings. But, you know, kind of doing a little ramble here, if you guys want to hear some more Brian Greer thoughts in my head, sometimes I've had to kill series on my show because I end up spending too much money because I am reading and learning about games that just sound cool, and then I end up backing them. So that, like, not the should you back. Luckily, I've done really well to should you backs without having to back every single thing. Back in the day, I was backing every single thing, as you can see. But during the In Case You Missed It series, where I'd go back and talk about, you know, like my 7 favorite late pledges that launched this month, I ended up backing just so many games that I would go back and give a second thought to, and then be like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to back that game. So I eventually had to stop doing that. It's one of the main reasons I took a step away from crowdfunding for a little bit in terms of coverage, because I was just spending way too much money. And it's not a bad thing, but like in terms of, there's a lot of these games that are really great, and I've never played To2 Con. It could be an incredible game. It was more of, I don't have the space, obviously, to maintain this collection and backing as much as I was backing. So I've luckily have been doing much better on clearing out games out of the collection and culling things and moving them on. And pretty soon here, the amount of pledges arriving should dry up because I haven't done anything in quite a while, but we'll see. You know, you know, I've done really good in terms of not buying retail. Now, there was a game I mentioned that I was interested in buying retail. The last retail game I bought was Arcs. We talked about that already on the show as well. But I was really interested in buying the Slay the Spire board game. And this is one of those interesting conversations that you can have, and maybe I should make a separate video on this entirely. But I just recently started playing Slay the Spire on my Xbox. It's part of Xbox Live's Game Pass. So I had it, you know, as part of that promo. And so I played it, and I actually beat it with all 4 characters, and I was like, man, this game is pretty freaking good. You know, and I can see why the board game would be so well implemented into this. So I started getting an itch to purchase that game. But then there's that conversation that I think a video could be interesting about, where it's like, you know, is it worth spending $150, $200, $300 on a board game version when you can spend $5 on the digital version that takes up a lot of the upkeep that you do, gives you a lot of enjoyment, and it's great for solo play, and also basically takes up 0 space in your house. I mean, that's an interesting conversation. So I ended up not buying Slay the Spire. As at the moment, there's a friend of mine who is telling me he can still sell me his copy if I'm interested, but I don't know. Obviously, I have a lot of games that just came in. I have a lot of games to get played, and I'm really trying to focus on getting the new games played as they come in. Plus, you know, I've got different kinds of coverages I'm still trying to provide for you guys. That way you guys can have the best backing decisions on any new games that might be getting out there. So, you know, I gotta learn new games, and I gotta play the games that I'm getting in. But that's about it. These are all the games that either I didn't sell or I sold, what I sold them for, and then the new games that are in the collection that I gotta find room for now on the shelves. Hopefully this video is interesting to you. I forgot to mention that this is part of the Keep or Sell part of the show. It's a whole segment in regards to my collection and what's coming, what's going, and talking about that as a collector and a board game player here in the space. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the series. If you did, remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you very soon. Also, by the time you guys see this video, I will actually be on family vacation. So you won't see a video after this one for a while. We're going to be gone for quite a bit of days on family vacation. I'll have 2 videos this week, one that's already been pre-recorded. That's maybe not, because I think I just saw that they're postponing their campaign. I'll have to see what we're going to do with that one. So I might only have this video going live this week, but hopefully that tied you guys over. I appreciate you guys for being patient with me and whatnot, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.